Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Awaken the World presents Awaken Sunday Live. The shift is well underway. Today is Sunday, October 21st. It is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you are here on the Awaken the World YouTube channel. Good afternoon. I don't know why I'm stuck in good morning, but good afternoon, everyone. So I see that Jennifer is here with us, and you know, Jennifer, I hope you're not going to be mad at me at this, but I have to tell you a little story. When I was a lot younger, I had gone out with a girl named Jennifer, and for whatever reason, I always called her Kissyfer. And every time I see your name, that's what pops into my head. So I hope you're not upset with that, but you know, honestly, it actually brings a chuckle to my mind because it just, you know, for some reason that was what I called her, and that's what mostly everyone who knew her called her. And every time I see your name, that's what comes up. So let's get this underway, and you know, literally this shift is well underway, and we have a lot of different things to talk about this afternoon, and we're going to begin with the Vedas. Actually, we're going to begin with the concept of the yugas. Hello, Kimmer170, how are you doing? Happy Sunday to you as well. Happy Sunday afternoon. So, and I'm guessing that's Kim Fraser, I think, is Kimmer170. I hope I'm right. I try to keep track of these things. It's difficult with all the different usernames. And if I'm wrong, I do apologize. So, in the Vedas, we have the idea of the cyclical ages of man, the cycles that we tend to go through. And there are known to be 4 of them, and these start with, you know, what's known as the Satya Yuga. And the Satya Yuga was basically the golden age of humanity. Oh, I was right. Good. Great. I'm glad. Thank you. And this golden age was essentially what we would call utopia. You know, there was really no old age, no starvation, no war. Human beings lived thousands of years, which makes perfect sense because even today we cannot determine what it is that causes the body to die. And I know that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but it's the truth. There is no physiological reason why our body should ever break down. And yet it does now. Perhaps it has to do with the vibrational state, you know, upon this planet that we are creating. Food for thought. After the Satya Yuga, we find ourselves in the Treta Yuga. And the Treta Yuga is known as, you know, virtue begins to diminish slightly. Emperors start to come into the picture. And so does war for the first time. We then move into the Dvapara Yuga. And in this Yuga, it is diseases become rampant, loss of ancestral knowledge, and general hysteria slowly begin to take over the human race. Then we enter the darkest time of humanity. And this is the time that we find ourselves in now. And this is the Dark Age, the Kali Yuga. Ignorance, filth, lies, low lifespans. The Vedas says that the average person will have a lifespan of roughly 70 years within the Kali Yuga. And if you look at our current lifespans, this is almost dead on the mark when we average it out. So we are right now in this Kali Yuga, and it does seem to make perfect sense. You know, the Bible and many other religious texts talk about this. They talk about that we are living in an era where everything appears to be upside down, especially to those awakening, where the materialistic culture reigns supreme. So what are the characteristics that we can recognize in this Kali Yuga? And I want to read a little bit from a wonderful post that I had found, and this was on a private blog. And the Kali Yuga is the Dark Age, where man and mankind, okay, not man as in male, degenerates and moves far away from God. Dharma, or morality, becomes non-existent, and civilization loses itself in egoic indulgence. The ancient world describes it as an age where the moral character of man is low, and he lies, she lies, cheats, deceit, corruption are taking over the earth. Those whom you would think are supposed to be good are now manifesting themselves in evil ways. And a lot of these, of course, are our leaders. The Kali Yuga is the final age in the cycle before we return to that state of wholeness again. And there are many scholars who argue incessantly over the particular lifespans of these yugas. And in truth, there really is no evidence to support that the yugas are not all of roughly the same size. Okay, there's a lot of talk that they represent, 1/10 and 3/10 and 4/10 of our entire cycle. But when you look closely and you talk to a lot of the Vedic scholars who are alive today, and these are university scholars, people who make their life study of the Vedas and the works contained within the Vedas, including such likes as the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, many, many other texts within this great volume of spiritual work that precedes the Bible by thousands of years. This is the age of darkness and ignorance. We slide further and further down the path of dishonesty, where virtue is thought of as having little value. Those who, through their corruption and greed, abuse others to gain financially are considered the winners. Passions run amok as unrestrained sexual indulgences and manipulations run through the societies. Liars and hypocrites rise into positions of power. These are seen not only in the church system, but in the religious, all the religious communities, and in the spiritual community, as well as in our political arenas. Important knowledge is lost, and scriptures and the use of scriptures becomes less and less common. The human diet is now considered to be dirty, and people are not even close to being as powerful as their ancestors were in the Satya Yuga. Likewise, the once pristine environment is now polluted. Water and food begin to come scarce, as do family bonds. Now, we're going to look at this a little closer and see how this relates to where we are today, okay? Because really, I think we can all see these things manifesting themselves more and more, roughly beginning 3,000 years ago and right into today, okay? Where our lifespan is down to roughly that 70 to 80 year period on average. Environmental decay is obvious and becoming more obvious all the time. And there is a complete dissolution of a sense of the nuclear family. And this has nothing to do with, anything to do with things that may break a family up. It is the falling away of the realization of family, that nuclear family where we learn to care for each other and love each other despite our differences. More and more we see families breaking apart. It's happened in Kelly's life. It's happened in many people's lives that we've talked to. This indeed is where we are at. We are in this Kali Yuga. It doesn't really matter what the label is. This is where we are. Now, when we look at the yugas, and we're going to get a little tiny bit of a handle on this so that it becomes a little more obvious. Scholars calculate that our Kali Yuga began, actually not 3,000 years ago, but 3,000 BC, okay, roughly 5,000 years ago. The unfortunate news, if there has to be an unfortunate news, is we are going to go through a period of great upheaval. And this has always been the way. Dangerous rulers will raise taxes and see themselves superior rather than protectors of society. Mass migration to other lands where food or work or safety may be available. No sense of spirituality will exist with fake saints. Ancestral knowledge is gone. Lust, ignorance, animosity towards people, and murder without reason. People will laugh, criticize, and attack those who offer solutions, those who are spiritual, those who stand for peace. Krishna, the Hindu god, foretells extreme hardships of those with ideals and higher ambitions. Now, we may want to, in our minds, say, okay, well, this is just like the Bible. It's just a text. It doesn't really mean anything. But can we see these things in our modern world, and what do they actually mean? We indeed have come into a world of no reason. Reason has left the building, just like Elvis did. More and more people are completely lost in consumer addiction, constantly on their phones searching for answers. Materialistic comforts have become a means to an end, and people no longer judge you on who you are, but rather what you are, your profession. And Kim, you are exactly right, and we're going to get to that. We have to set the stage here, though. Higher divorce rates. The divorce rates right now are at an all-time high. Women are no longer interested in being supportive wives, but want global attention. Men are not judged for their faithfulness and character, but only for what's in their bank account. Marriage rates are down, and men in Western nations are becoming sexually frustrated thanks to the anti-sexual harassment movement and the push on women to be career-minded. Does it sound like where we are at? Does it sound familiar? Have you seen and heard of these things in the news, reported to you via Facebook? False idols will adorn our society, and these false idols have nothing to do with, making God upset, okay? We are talking about silicon men. We're talking about the men in Silicon Valley and the followers of these people who have converted to transhumanism, the unspoken religion that forces technology on you even if you live on the ranch and don't need it. God has been replaced by superheroes, celebrities, politicians, and tech giants. Transhumanism is spreading like a virus, secretly implanting the belief that you are not worthy somehow, and that only technology can save you from your sin of being normal. Additionally, you have so-called anointed holy men who lecture the modern world to take care of immigrants while they themselves put walls on their borders and amass police to stop those in search of food and safety and comfort. Those who bring up the solutions are under attack. Individuals and groups who speak out against the corrupt establishments within our society are viciously attacked by not only the media and rogue agents online throughout our social media systems, but the government itself takes part in these attacks. People have been banned from entering nations for simply expressing their views, while those who we may call a terrorist are freely entered. And of course, it doesn't stop in the media, it doesn't stop with the politicians, it's happening at all levels of our society. Fake science, fake politicians, and even fake people. And the illusions don't necessarily come from words but from the way we choose to live our lives. Children go to school, or at least we expect them to be going to school to get an education, but instead it is indoctrination. Preparation to enter the world of enslavement that we currently term as democracy. People go to doctors to be cured and only receive medicines that allow them to stay sick, while mitigating a few of the symptoms, and in exchange they must take on a whole array of additional symptoms. People go to the grocery store to buy real food, and they can afford only heavily processed synthetic products, products that are dead to the body. We have this New World Order movement, and you know, the NWO, of course, is recognizable, and now we're calling it globalism. We've simply changed the label, and this is the new one universal religion of the world where everyone believes the false preachings of the globalists. While they may not openly announce their intentions directly, they want to micromanage every aspect of your existence. The government issues higher taxes, trapping people in a prison. We saw this. We saw this in the beautiful little piece about the cotton plantation and the slaves that we posted yesterday. They want you to believe that they know what's best for you, that you are not capable of understanding what's best for you, and that you are inferior in some way because you are not wealthy. You have not met with success in our modern world. Excuse me for a moment. When Shiva's wife asked, what can people do in this era? She was addressing her husband, Shiva. Shiva said, and I want you to pay close attention to this. Shiva said he will reappear and create a new space, a new center, a new state of mind where man can find God again personally. Japa, which is prayer, meditation, and yoga are recommended. But be careful, because a lot of the yoga these days has turned to downward dog pop culture. You know, if you're not extremely lean and perfectly built and in a pair of skin-tight yoga pants, you're not likely to be standing up at the front of the yoga class anymore. This is where we've fallen into. Now, of course, this is a generalization. There is lots of things going on with this, which are working on the side of light. And honestly, it's all light. There's no failure in this at all. 2025 is considered to be the end of this Kali Yuga. And that is really, you know, less than a decade away. We're talking roughly 7 years away. Now, again, the numbers as to when it ends specifically are not as important as the realization of what is going to happen in the near future. Don't give up hope. We have lots to talk about. There is lots of hope here. There always is. Our future is never in doubt. We have a transition period coming. This transition period is normally considered to be 300 years from Yuga to Yuga. But as I spoke with Kelly this morning, and I will let you know my feelings on this as well, one of the things that the Vedic masters and scholars of old, the wisdom teachings of old, have failed to take into account is the literal speeding up of time itself. And this happens because our perception of time is speeding up. You know, if you talk to anyone who's becoming even halfway aware and you say, do you notice that time seems to be going faster? That there seems to be a momentum building to things? And the answer is usually yes, absolutely do I notice it. Days seem to disappear. Weeks are blinks of the eye. Months are turning into something that if you turn your back on, they are gone. Years go by. You know, someone said to me the other day they were born in 1981 and they had children, and for a moment I didn't think they were old enough to have children. I had to catch myself and realize that they were 37 years old. During this transition period, we think things are honestly going to get a little worse. I mean, there's no denying it, okay? We have to face that. The system, which is already under intense pressure due simply to its operating outside of natural law, will become more and more desperate in its attempts to preserve itself. And we are seeing this more and more every day. Right within our leaders, right within the politics of our leaders, causing people in nations to fight amongst each other. You know, the saddest thing about that little clip on the cotton plantation was the one man, Samuel, who realized the game. The rest of the plantation workers were asleep. He was one of the awoken, one of the awakening beings present at that plantation. What did he face? He was whipped. He was whipped the first time to the cheers of the people. The people who in the days before were his friends, his relatives, his family, his co-workers. And finally, ultimately, he was whipped to death. And the people did not even notice. How many times today do we allow the same thing? I mean, today, right now, in our news, we have the Saudi Arabian journalist, and I believe the proper pronouncement of the name is Khashoggi. And, you know, he was killed outright by his home country. There is no doubt of this. The evidence is there. They've gone from denying it completely to blaming it on a fist fight within the consulate. The jig is up. And yet we sit back and we allow this because the money exchange between their nation and North America is too great to let go of. Too much greed. Too many weapons to sell. Too much war to make. All of this can leave us incredibly depressed, and a lot of people get into this space. They really do. They get into the space where they look around and they say, well, it is so hopeless, and I need to encourage you from the bottom of my heart. There is no chance that we aren't all going to make it one day. There is always hope. Hope does spring eternal. I know, Kim. Hey, you got to be careful. You're going to give yourself whiplash. What is our role? You know, as awakening beings in this time, we have far more power than we will ever realize. We truly do. And the first thing we must do is hold that space within. Don't allow yourself to fall into despair over what you perceive with your eyes. Remember this. We've talked about this before many, many times. The physical world is a monument. It is a leftover of our consciousness at the current moment. Whatever we think about, whatever we speak about, whatever we act out is made manifest into the physical world after the fact. Thank God. It takes some time. The more we pay attention to it, the more we focus on the negativity and the growing angst, the growing animosity, the enmity that we hold one nation against another, and this is not at the people level. The average person, when running into someone of a different color or or a different belief system who is in need one-on-one is usually full of compassion and caring and sees past any perceived differences. All as they see is a person in need. Our politicians, our governments, our corporations, our media are doing everything they can to show us the opposite. We need to hold this space. We need to hold this pregnant silence, a watching awareness, standing for, not against, you know, and boy, this is a toughie. I mean, I got to be honest with you, I still can't do it all the time, okay? In years past, I stood against many, many things. I fought against many, many things. I fought against Christians. I fought against politicians. I went to war. Not only as a soldier, but I went to war personally in so many ways, so many causes, pushing up, pushing up, pushing up. In that pushing up, in that standing against, it was I who had the life force sucked from me in my frustration, in my anger, in my self-righteousness about what was happening. And indeed, all that energy that I was giving up was being fed directly into the things I was standing against, buoying them up, helping to hold them in place even longer still. Why? Because I was feeding it. I was feeding it my energy. We have to stop. We have to learn to stand for the opposite. We have to learn to look at and see what we would consider not serving us, not holding us towards completion, not helping us towards the realization that we are indeed one human family on this planet. Standing for something builds your power. Standing for something makes you stronger, and it pulls that energy away from those things we no longer wish in our experience, and it causes them to fade even faster still. Unconscious reactions from a large portion of society will accelerate over the coming few years. Things are going to get worse. We face a very real possibility of a third world war. And just today, I found out that Trump is pulling out of the nuclear treaty with Russia. This treaty is likely the one thing that has kept us from annihilating ourselves on this planet. The number of nuclear weapons that are out there still today would destroy our planet many times over. Humanity would no longer have a place to live for hundreds of thousands of years. This is the current state of our being. This is the current state of the planet. This is the current state of humanity as a whole. Fortunately, as I've said, hope abounds. So how do we fight and not fight? How do we stand for and not against? Keeping calm is the first and foremost answer. You know, as I said before, when Shiva's wife asked what people could do, Shiva said he would reappear and create a new space, a new center, japa, prayer, meditation, going within, realizing through your awakening awareness the truth of the powerful beings that we are. This is how we fight. This is the fight. The fight is not against that which we see manifest in the physical realm. The fight we face is inside of ourselves. This is the war that is alluded to in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna and Arjuna are in this magnificent war chariot standing on the field of battle between the two armies. And these are the armies of our existence here. That in us which is confused and lost and drowning in the physical illusion, and that is within us that is awakening and is beginning to feel a sense of wholeness and a connectivity. And those two sides are standing in apparent opposition on this battlefield we would call life. What is the answer? Well, there are a lot of answers. One of the reasons we have such a large population on the planet is exactly this. It is the coming to the close of an age, a dark age, an age steeped in war. You know, if you look back at our history in the last 4,000 or 5,000 years, I believe there are less than 60 days of peace on the entire planet. 4,000 years. And we have only managed roughly 60 days of peace. That says a lot as to the state of being that we're in right now. There are many solutions for this, and of course these solutions all begin within ourselves, but there are some things that can happen externally, and as part of a growing spiritual community, and when I say spiritual, I believe I would be correct in saying that most people use spiritual as a term to differentiate themselves from religious. There's an issue with the spiritual community, though. The spiritual community, in its growing awareness, in its continued awakening, is still very much caught in the labels. In many ways, acting in the same way that religion does, a sense of protectionism. You know, we have the only way, we have the right way. There are people who believe that the system of the system that we actually live in is contributing into this fragmentation of spirituality. And I believe that to be true. Imagine if we could get all of our spiritual leaders to unite, our true spiritual leaders, the recognized and unrecognized spiritual leaders of our planet, those people whose only goal is to see consciousness rise. We must, in order to do this, remain centered in common purpose. And our common purpose can only be to awaken the human species, to awaken ourselves first and foremost, and through that become a light unto others. Yeah, I know, Kim. Kelly and I have talked about this so many times, and I have to tell you, that is why I refuse to put a price or a cost on anything I would ever offer anybody. I just refuse to. For me to ask someone for money to sit down and speak with them and help them is a form of insanity that I simply do not wish to take part of. I really don't. In all honesty, and you know, I'm a cut and dried guy on this sort of thing. I would rather die poor on the street. I really would, honestly. And even then, I would still offer my help for free. You know, it is never about the external circumstances. Never. It's always about what's going on within that center. And this is where we need the centering of purpose, of what our purpose is. You know, our purpose is very easily lost in this illusion sometimes, and people look for purpose and they're looking for some grand thing because that's what they've been trained to do. You know, it has to be dramatic. It will be dramatic. It already is filled with drama. There's no need to create additional drama. Your purpose here is to awaken, to realize the truth of your being, and in that be a light unto the world. Drop the arguments. Drop the idea of who is right and wrong. Point out to others the mistaken conceptions, the unconscious use of labels that continues to deepen the unconscious state within them. And I have to be honest, I've seen a lot of posts that you know, we were talking, one member had said, I hope there was no fluff on this group page. And I kind of had a laugh at that, because as long as you're not talking about the fluff that covers my entire body as hair, there is no fluff here. You know, notice my head doesn't have any. It's everywhere else, trust me. Kelly will tell you, I'm like a giant teddy bear. I mean, seriously, I'm like 3 inches bigger with hair than I am without. We need to drop these arguments with each other. We need to look closely at the posts we read, at the posts we write, and look deeply at what we are allowing ourselves to be programmed with. And this is it. You know, Kim, you've hit it right on the nail on the head again. Boy, I tell you, you're pretty handy with that hammer this morning. Kim says, I've always said it is so simple, a small child can understand. We overthink and overcomplicate everything. Absolutely, all the time. You know, I'm constantly admonishing Kelly and reminding her, let go of all this. Let it go. Stop overthinking. Let it go. You know, I was trying to explain to her last night, because, you know, she said to me, she said, I just don't get you. You know, like there's never a piece of you that comes off the least bit unsure. You always seem to know. And you seem to know no matter what. I've never seen you talk about a single subject. I've never seen you run into a person, any profession, any level of education, any level of being where you could not communicate easily and openly and authentically with them in a total state of surety of being, in a total state of presence. How do you do it? Let go of that thought. Stop complicating everything. It's not complicated. Kim, you're absolutely right. It's actually very simple. One of the things we can also do is we can stop supporting the system. We can stop supporting the perpetration of the continuation of our descent into madness. And if you do not think we are living in a world that is filled with unconscious madness and insanity, you must be one of the insane. And that's okay too. There's no blame here. These people are not our enemies. Trump, other politicians like Justin Trudeau here, heads of corporations, these are our brothers and sisters as well. They are lost, they are wayward sheep stuck deep in the illusion. Choose to be the shepherd, not the wolf who wishes to hunt and kill them. Choose to be the shepherd. What do we do? I've got some really good news here. The Kali Yuga is coming to a close, and it is coming to a close relatively quickly, and it will be followed by, a period of great unrest as the remnants of our systems that we have developed during this Yuga scream and scrabble and claw to maintain their supremacy. But here is the rub. Here is the gift. Here is the thing that not a single sage in history, when it comes to the Vedas and the Yugas, bothered to take into account. During this time, as always in human history, and this breaks me up, it really does, the pure love, we are surrounded by people who are awakening. We are surrounded in a cloak of light, showing us the way forward, showing us the way out of this state. And as I said, the big thing that the Vedas masters failed to take into account is the sheer power of this awakening consciousness on the planet. This 300-year period does not have to be 300 years for us to shift into the Satya Yuga, to restore our humanity to the state it once was. We can indeed, through the very intent and collaborative effort of all those awakening across the planet, propel human consciousness past this period of unrest. We have the opportunity to literally awaken the world, to awaken every human being. In the coming months, in November and December, this is going to be our focus. We're going to move our focus into the ways which we can contribute and continue to form networks that will begin to support each other and act together in ways that have never been done before. The technology that we possess today that is subsuming us and holding us down is not bad. It is being misused on so many levels. Right now, the internet and pornography is huge. The sheer amount of money that the pornographic industry on the internet generates is mind-boggling. Is the internet bad? No, it's not. It is our use that does not serve us. It can serve us. Everything we are given can be a tool towards unity or a weapon towards our own mutual destruction. Everything. From cracking the atom to the bone the first caveman picked up. Everything just is. Everything is all about how you choose to use it. We can use these systems, we can use the internet, we can use our connectivity, we can use Facebook in the way that Kelly and I try faithfully to use it, and that is to bring awareness, support, love, compassion, and help to anyone who desires it, anyone who needs it. Come one, come all. Our door is always open. We will never turn you away. This is what we need. This is how we are going to get by this. We are not going to get by this by running and hiding. We are not going to get by this by digging ourselves a big hole and burying ourselves with supplies and hoping we'll be one of the few. This is not about us as individuals. This is about us as a species, boys and girls. Men and women, fathers and mothers, aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas. It's about all of us. We are intricately linked with this planet. We are a part of the microcosm that this planet represents of the macrocosm. We are part of the consciousness of this world. We are held within what we would term a metagenic field of life itself. We have polluted this field at a psychic level. We have polluted our minds, we have polluted our bodies, we have polluted our environment, and we pollute our children. It's okay. We're going to do this. One way or the other. As with always, there are always only two paths. Both paths lead in the same direction. There is no path backwards into hell. There are only two paths, and both of those paths lead to heaven. Both of those paths lead to the wholeness and oneness of the human race, to the waking up of all of humanity. We can take the higher road, the road filled with compassion, love, caring for one another, growth. And all of it will come as we walk beside the meadows, dip our feet in the streams, and interact with each other in a joyous and uplifting way. Or we can take the other path. Again, both those paths lead to the same place. The other path is filled with brambles and thorns and potholes. It will poke us and prick us and make us bleed. It will cause us to stumble and grovel in the dirt. It will cause us to break and to crack and to hurt and to do hurt to others. It's really, as it always has been and always will be, about choice. What do you choose during this shift? Do you choose to become part of the solution? Or do you choose to wallow in being part of the problem? I know if you're here today, I know if you watch this video or any of the videos that speak to this, that you understand that this message is coming faster and faster, spoken in more and more ways, day after day, moment to moment. Thousands upon thousands of people crying out, wake up. I thought about this all last night when a con worker defended. Yeah, exactly. And understand it's okay for those who are in that state of consciousness who still defend. Just like that cotton plantation, there's a great deal of the population that has been programmed so deeply, have gone so unconscious, have bought into the lies of their own unworthiness, have fallen so much into the sleep of the system that for them the loss of the system also means the loss of themselves. And Kim, that's exactly the right attitude. Hold compassion instead. Never be afraid to speak your truth, not against such a person, but standing for your truth, standing for a higher truth, a purer version, something that contributes to the whole of us, not pulling us apart. Ultimately, every act, every day, in every way, speaks. What is it that you speak from your being? And I'm not talking about beating yourself up because you have moments. I mean, I'm the first one to admit Boy, when that tiger comes out, when the old soldier comes back rearing its ugly head out of my, remaining pain body, and I mean, granted, it's less and less and less, but there I still have trigger points that will get me. In those moments, you have to hold compassion for yourself first. You have to see in objective awareness what actually happened, the why of it, and then simply let it go. Your awareness, your growing awareness, is already removing the energy from that mode of being within your body's energy matrix, within what we would call our egoic mind. Slowly, surely, more and more of us are rarefying ourselves, are working on raising our vibrational states, and let's be clear, there is no right way to do it. Whatever is working for you is the right way to do it. It truly is. I really hope that this has been an educational and valuable video today. This shift is well underway. We are on the cusp of closing out a very dark period of our existence. And that dark period is large. We all have a lot of work. We all have a lot to do. And it's not to get there, Kim. It's to realize what we already are. To realize the truth of our existence. You know, we all came into this world. The moment we were born, you were equipped with everything you needed to have a successful, joyous journey on this planet. And this may not always be obvious. It may not always seem so when you are caught in the depths of this physical illusion. But it is the truth. Life cannot give us more than we are capable of. Why? Because we are life. We are not so much living as we are the livingness, the life itself, manifesting itself in trillions upon trillions of unique and special and beautiful ways. Much love to you all. Namaste to you all. Be at peace. I will post later this evening regarding tonight's meditation. It will be back on the Facebook group page. Please remember that, back on the Facebook group page. And I believe this evening we're running a little bit late because of our time that we have at the production this evening. And we will be engaging, as I said, in the last 10 days of our meditations, mantras from a new point of view. You know, initially we looked at mantras from the point of view of wishing to be in that state. Now we're going to look at mantras from the realization that we are in that state. The mantras are a cry of recognition, a reflection back into the cosmos of the truth of your being. Again, namaste.